that we're in a better place at the end of 2022 fiscally than we were at 2021?
Well,
There's
a
no right
good,
answer here. I'm just
yeah, I know it's, I think in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. Um, I'll start with the no part, which is that in terms of Congress, we seem to be repeating some of the same patterns that have been in place for quite a while as people got used to really low interest rates, running up deficit spending, whether that's in the form of tax cuts without offsets or spending programs that are so important we can't possibly pay for them. So that seems to be continuing. And even now, as we talk about what's going to end up in the final omnibus package before the end of the year and before Democrats hand control of the House over to Republicans, there are a lot of things in there that people want that are priorities that we all know are not going to be paid for. So in terms of the actual fiscal behavior of those in Congress, I would say we're not in a better place because every day it continues to get worse. However, what I will say is there does seem to be more of a realization, and that's not just made by those who've been on our program, but with interest rates rising, with the potential for a recession that's not totally, inevitable, and with some of the economic consequences that are going to come from that, I do think that there is an opportunity for people to start becoming aware again of the cost of carrying some of this debt, that the debt service payments in the federal budget are going to climb significantly, and that might start to give people pause about, okay, if we want this program, how are we going to pay for it? So I'll relate back to what Tori said in that the final version of what used to be called Build Back Better came out as this Inflation Reduction Act. Not sure it really had anything to do with reducing inflation. However, what was encouraging was that there was, I'll say, some kind of serious effort, including some revenue pieces that were in there that actually, again, in the couple of days, in the 48 hours before the student loan forgiveness thing was announced, we were actually looking at a potential deficit reduction of somewhere in the order of $300 billion over the next 10 years or so. Of course, that was all erased a couple of days later when the Biden administration announced it was going, right, exactly, forgive up to $1 trillion worth of student loan debt. But what I'll say is it's a positive sign for the way in which people are going to be potentially crafting legislation in the future, and other, federal programs. I hope to see more of it, and I think that would be good. And I hope it also opens the door to some of these other plausible, credible revenue options that would bring in the type of revenue we need. I think we're going to be more focused on the conversation about Social Security and Medicare because the clock is ticking. We don't have a ton of time before the trust funds for those programs go insolvent. And I think that to me, what gives me hope about that is that I think there is some bipartisan consensus on some of these things. And even with Republicans controlling the House, Democrats controlling the Senate, and in the last couple of years of this first term of the Biden administration, we'll see if there's another one, but that there might be a window of opportunity to actually move some things in the fiscal space. And also, I think I'm very encouraged to see some bipartisan talk about some potential immigration reforms. I've seen a couple of things just over in the last few weeks since the election that give me some signs of hope that there are potentially some windows of opportunity with this particular dynamics in Congress.